So Steven Crowder recently posted this claim, and since then he's been going around on college campuses arguing with kids over why Snap should be deleted from the Federal Register, why it is completely useless because Snap members are more obese than the average population. Now that's its own argument. I'm going to address this argument and many others right here. The idea that Snap members spend twice as much as non-Snap members, it was just astonishing when I saw this. I was like, where possibly could Steven Crowder have gotten this information? So I went to the clip here. I'll play the clip here in a second. And I zoomed in on the text. I'm not a member, so I don't think I get access to the sources. So I zoomed in on the text. I typed it into Google, and I found the source he was referring to make the claim that Snap members spend twice as much.
Well, it is our business. We are the taxpayer. We're the ones who funds Snap, to be clear. Mankind, this country, is our business. So think about this. You're going to give us free crap, even if we're perpetually unemployed, or we're going to commit a felony. How do you solve that? How do we coexist as a country? At what point do you think people get fed up enough? Then remember, Snap recipients, all references, link in the description, as we do every single show. They cost you, the American worker, $145 billion a year. $9 billion a year alone are spent in sugary drinks. That's the number one Snap item. Think about that. Supplemental nutrition. Sprite?
That's from the Department of Agriculture.
Yeah. And then something else, you go, well, hey, yeah, some people, they have some tough breaks. This is not Cinderella Man when you understand that the average grocery bill for someone using Snap, it's twice the amount spent on the average non-Snap grocery bill. So if you're struggling, if you're middle class, and that stings when you see those taxes taken out of your check, just know that there's someone out there who, my God, has had a little bit of a tough go, but they're spending double what you just budgeted for your groceries.
So before I get into the incorrect data, here's the correct data on Snap. Really everything you need to know. The average payment is about $180 to $190. A feasible lower end range for food for one person per month is about double that. Now this is just an average. Snap benefits get very small, they get very big, depending on the family size, which is another point of discussion here. But that is to say, Snap members spend 20% more per month than non-Snap shoppers. This is the correct number. Why is this the case? Because Snap shoppers are shopping for more people, right? Snap benefits go up with the amount of dependents that you have. Where does Steven Crowder get the claim that Snap shoppers spend twice as much? Well, he gets it from this numerator study. This numerator study, which, and I'm quoting the study here, they essentially followed Snap beneficiaries for 12 months. And quote, the study measured Snap customers who made 12 or more shopping trips and used their benefits for purchases over the past 12 months. Now, if you know anything about Snap, you know that some trips to the grocery store, you use Snap and some you don't. So all this study proved, right, and this is what Steven Crowder was pointing to here, this little table, was that when Snap members use their Snap, they spend more. It's not comparing, it's comparing the same people versus when they do not use their benefits. So of course they spend less. This is not comparing, Snap households to non-Snap households, which is the data that we just got there. Why did the amount of work Steven Crowder had to do to dig up this data, it's incomprehensible to me. This is like 2022 analysis. 2023, it was published. This was all 2022, 2021 data on the Snap expansion, the COVID relief. So I have no idea how he got this to cite in his little graphics that he has on the screen. It's just incredibly stupid. Now, ironically, there is also a very relevant news story about this. There was yesterday that the Trump administration is threatening and actually said they were in the process of removing SNAP funding for states that did not provide all of the immigration data that they wanted. Now, this is obvious coercion, obvious 10th Amendment issues right here. We'll never get past any court ever. In fact, it already failed They already got an injunction against this. Not against this specific instance, but actually a few months past, in October, when the Trump administration was threatening to issue basically non-compliance procedures, which is an ability to stop SNAP funding from going to states over states not sending in their SNAP data. So that's different from immigration data, but the injunction still applies here. So I don't know how the Trump administration is gonna get away with this. At least the journalism implies that this ruling does still apply. This injunction still applies. They can't implement these non-compliance procedures. The executive order that this is based off of itself is just egregious. It's just like cutting off, FEMA funding, which the GAO already confirmed, just like cutting off all federal funds to sanctuary jurisdiction. These have all been litigated by judges. Not going to happen. Now, the obesity thing, is it a legitimate position within the realm of Congress, including a lot of Democrats, that you should not be able to buy sugary drinks? That's his main argument, is that the number one product is sugary drinks. And I'd say that's a majority position, of course. Efforts in the past to get that kind of law passed have failed. The politics of that are seemingly harder than they seem for some reason. But that is not what Steven Crowder is arguing. He wants to remove the entire thing. Now, as you saw in his video there, he erroneously mentions felons, as if that has anything to do with it. That's up to the states. It's up to the states if they want to let them buy sugary drinks and candy, by the way. I mean, what happened to states' rights? If a state wants to have people give them the option to buy sugary drinks with SNAP, then that's fine. However, it's not an argument to say the whole program should be thrown out, because what's worse than obesity is food insecurity. Oftentimes, that's not a medical statement. It's just the upper bound. I mean, the lower bound of how bad it can be when you don't have food outweighs when you have too much in general. And that is especially true when the quality is higher, which is what a lot of Democrats have argued, right? They should have more funding, but should be directed by higher quality foods. That's, of course, a reasonable position. But the idea that this program, where 1 out of 3 of its beneficiaries are children, should just be thrown out. Children have nothing to do with it. He doesn't mention the fact that work requirements are required for this. They're even going to be tighter on the big beautiful bill. He doesn't care about any of that. He's making up data. His obesity data, I think, is also wrong. It's also comparing apples to oranges. They are more obese in general, but in the clip there, well, actually not in the clip there. In his arguments with college students, he makes it seems like it's this massive difference when it's really not, and he does that to imply that somehow the like American taxpayer is just contributing to this like massive downfall because people are obese. It's like people are obese no matter what we do, seemingly. And it's not like we should be forcing these people to live off their body fat either. That's not necessarily safe. On the contrary, his proposal is to just give them a few more months of SNAP and say the whole program's gone. Obviously, that's untenable. Now, we have not seen the great results from SNAP as far as child food insecurity goes that in any way is comparable to the great results we get from a program like Social Security, which you can basically see the line for elderly poverty go down very clearly. And SNAP doesn't seem to do that as much. It had a very elevated rise after 2008. It didn't seem to have much of as positive of an effect as the child tax credit did. But that does not mean that it should not be kept around. It doesn't mean you get to lie on your show and put a buried study here, which contradicts all of the current information, that doesn't even say what you want it to say, that literally compares groups that you aren't even referencing in your video in order to make a very niche point that the vast majority of Americans would scoff at. It just wouldn't make sense.